Aarrgh, this be your pirate captain, Tommy the Keyblade Master, and I'm here to pillage some booty.
Oh, great. Here comes another Johnny Depp pirate movie.
Anyone else want to make dumb jokes here? Let's just get on with the review, so I can stop talking like this before I cough up a lung.
Today's game is going to be all about pirating and not of the Disney variety. While I do like the Pirate of the Caribbean films made by Disney, those are more about fantasy adventures than actual pirates. Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed 4 gets right into what the pirate lifestyle was about, gives us some really good historical fiction, and of course you're not just a pirate, you're a pirate assassin. Well, kind of, sort of. Not really. I'll get all into the story and the gameplay in a minute, but all I can say is this game is a real blast to play, even if it ventures a lot from the usual Assassin's Creed norm. The story in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag follows one Edward Kenway. Yes, Edward Kenway is the father of Hytham Kenway and Connor Kenway from Assassin's Creed 3. Anyways, at the beginning of the game, we find out that Edward Kenway has left his home in England in order to journey to the Caribbean to become a privateer in search of money and fortune so he can finally prove himself to his wife back home, even though she really didn't approve of him doing that. Anyways, a few events happen and he manages to find and kill one of the assassins. Don't feel too badly for him. This assassin was a traitor who was going to sell out his order to the Templars, and Edward stopped him from doing that. However, Edward, not quite understanding everything that is going on, sells the information to the Templars anyways. However, he quickly finds out the Templars are looking for something called the Observatory so they can end the age of pirating. This would severely hurt Edward's fun, so he decides to go out against the Templars. That said, Edward never becomes an assassin. He and them finally reach an understanding towards the end of the game, but for the most part, whenever you run into one of them, they don't really like him. They think he's a greedy pig, and for good reasons. Edward is a greedy pig. The way Ubisoft writes his character is smart, though. He never becomes quite so unlikable that you root against him, but at the same time, he's not a hero. He is a pirate, after all. And he's a pirate that almost lets his greed destroy him, so that's an interesting part of the story as well. Towards the end of the game, he almost loses everything. In a sad sort of way, he does manage to lose everything by the end of the game. He maybe win his freedom, but he loses everything he sought to protect from the beginning of the game. Now, one of the pirates I was surprised to see not being a villain is the infamous Blackbeard. Now, they decided to show off the more theatrical side of Edward Thatch rather than trying to show that he was the main villain all the time. And I can actually understand that. Thatch is one of the first pirates to die that is introduced in the game, and it's kind of show that Kenway has kind of lost his direction and is kind of spinning out of control. So they needed to keep Blackbeard kind of low profile and not make him too aggressive, and make sure that the fact that he was a pirate that was more bent on theatrics than real murder and death. Who they did actually decide to make a villain to make a really cold-hearted pirate out of is a real interesting one, Black Bart Roberts. Now, if you don't know about him, he was a person who never really wanted to be a pirate. He was kind of captured by a group of them and kind of pressed into their service. However, a few weeks' time, or a short time later, I should say, he was later made captain of the ship after their previous captain was killed. He became really good at being captain of a pirate ship. Since he wasn't known to drink or really be a brawler, he was able to really keep order, and he probably took more golden ships than any other pirate before him, and his death kind of ended the golden age of piracy. If there is one pirate that would serve as a rival to Kenway, it would be Black Bart, and they make a good job of it. Now, like all the other Assassin's Creeds in the main game, there is a modern day story that goes alongside the past story. However, Desmond Miles and the events that happened in Assassin's Creed 3 is now permanently retired. So instead, you get this faceless person working at Aarrggh Entertainment. It's all done in first person, and you're never able to see what your character looks like. It's a great way of making sure that you're neither really too attached or annoyed by the character you're playing in the modern world. So basically, it's just you walking around. Your character is given no dialogue. You are called upon by the assassins to hack into a computer every now and then give the data to Sean and Rebecca. But other than that, there is no real story or dialogue. Basically, you're just a game developer. And Ubisoft uses this to kind of poke fun of itself. I take it there's probably just some of the attitude of Ubisoft's office. And Ubisoft also takes time to poke fun of one of the most powerful tech companies on Earth, probably the most powerful tech company on Earth, given the Aarrggh Entertainment logo's design. I'd say they're definitely satirizing somebody. And if you don't know who it is, I'll give you a clue. They own YouTube. The graphics in this game are really beautiful. You get things like the lush jungle. You'll see things like the dilapidated state of Nassau, comparing that to the thriving Havana, Cuba. The detail in these places are just outstanding. You can see the paint being peeling off these walls and the little vines growing on the roof. It's just amazing looking. And that's not counting the characters themselves. The facial movements, you see the muscles in the face move when they talk. It's just a really outstanding looking effect when you see a cutscene, because the characters look so real, without ever crossing into surreal. And the game's graphics still look good when sailing the sea, which is what you do a good chunk of the game. You see waves rise, you see weather patterns change. It's just beautiful. And then of course there's these sea battles that you see here. You can see the cannonballs fly back, you can see the explosions, you can even see the chunks of wood fly about as cannonballs hit the enemy ship and yours. And I should note, in real life, these chunks of wood that you see just flying out of these ships could be as dangerous and deadly as the cannonballs themselves. Hence the term, shiver me timbers. Sound in this game is equally impressive. First, let's start off with the voice work. You get some excellent voice work for the characters that sound appropriate.
Wives, families, and countrymen. How else to explain your government's complete disinterest in your well-being?
Quality of the acting is top-notch, as you can see in this scene, and in pretty much every other. I didn't notice a scene or a character that seemed really flat or shallow. While the voice acting is great, the music is even better. While the game does have a good score, I should say what really impressed me was the sea shanties. Now, sailing in an old-time ship like this was actually kind of boring. It would be days without action, so one of the things sailors would do is make up songs to entertain themselves. And Assassin's Creed 4 has a whole bunch of songs you can unlock by finding music sheets flying around cities. Just expect to be hearing Drunken Sailor until you find a few of these. Of course, you don't get a whole bunch of guys, and most pirates were mostly male crews, together in a small boat for several weeks without women, without them starting to sing about stuff that has nothing to do with sailing.
Oh, Captain Baker, how do you store your cargo? Some I stow forward and some I stow aft. Larboard, Bloodson.
Your captain may be a pervert, but methinks they were singing about something other than stowing cargo on a ship. Let's start talking about the gameplay, and I'll start on what is the basics of every Assassin's Creed, and still is here, despite the changes. You're still going to be doing a lot of sneaking around, you're still going to be doing assassination on a lot of enemies, and you're still going to be doing things like parkour tricks to climb up tall buildings and take a look around. Now, we're now in the West and no longer in the Mid-East or European areas that had huge buildings with tall skyscrapers, so this part has been toned down a bit, but you still do a fair amount of it, and it's still kind of fun. Why this has been toned down, of course, is because the game is now about sailing and pirating.
Aarrgh. Basically, the game is about getting lots of booty.
And you're going to be doing a lot of sailing, pillaging, and pirating if you want to beat this game. Basically, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag takes this little mini game and some side events that you had to do in Assassin's Creed 3, which involved naval battles, and makes them front and center of the game. And it doesn't hurt it at all, because those naval battles were the blast. They were the best set pieces in Assassin's Creed 3, even though they were kind of small. Basically, you have to sail your ship from all the different islands in the Caribbean in order to complete your mission. Along the way, you're going to also encounter trouble with either the British or Spanish fleet, and you're going to need to upgrade your ship. How do you do that? Well, by pillaging other ships. And to do this, you beat them in a battle and try to get their life bar down to a red. Then you sail in close and hold down the B button for a few moments to charge a little meter, and when that happens, you start doing a battle for the ship. This really does a good job of probably showing how pirates really did it. You know, you grapple onto the ship and you pull them close, and then you proceed to go on board the other ship, and just all chaos breaks loose. You can loosen the other ship up a little bit with a good well-timed blast of cannon fire, but if you're taking a big ship, you're still going to have to go on board and start hacking and slashing enemy soldiers in a really big grand battle. You're going to also make sure you have to have crew big enough to take over that ship too. If too many of them get killed, you can fail. But usually that's not too big of a problem, just be careful of that second bar. But like I said, this really does capture the chaos, I think, of what capturing a ship, a vessel might have been like if you were a pirate. Just all craziness and bedlam on deck as you try to take out enough of them to surrender the ship. And after you're done fighting enough men to get them to surrender, you'll be able to decide what you want to do. You can either repair your own ship, lower your wanted level, or send it to your fleet, because like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and on, you will have a little mini game where you can send off ship and crew to collect items for you, you know, based on a timer and their strength. It really doesn't get you much, but if you're a completionist, it's something you have to do. I couldn't get enough of this part, got to be honest, and it's just fun pillaging these ships. Now there's an RPG level, like I said, and if you go against a ship that's a lot stronger than yours at the moment, you'll be sent down to Davy Johnes Locker pretty dang fast. So with a game that's pirating adventures can last for hours, I mean, it's a good 25 to 30 hour voyage with this game, and that's not talking about online gameplay. Is there any flaws with this game? Yeah, there were kind of two things I'd like to complain about. One is a leftover from Assassin's Creed 3, and that is the eavesdropping missions. Remember in the early days of the PS2 when the Japanese RPG makers could figure out they could make 20-minute cutscenes right before boss battles, and didn't quite figure out that if we lost the boss battles we might not want to watch the whole thing again, so they didn't have the skip scene selection? Yeah, these eavesdropping missions are pretty much the same thing. You lose them, you're going to have to sneak around and listen to the whole conversation again and again and again and again and again. So yeah, they're annoying. Second problem I had with this game comes with building your town. Now, I lost some of the footage I recorded for this review, so I don't have it. But basically, you're able to capture this town from one of the Templars and rebuild it into your own pirate paradise. Unlike Ezio's Little Manor from Assassin's Creed 2, where you get money from the town, you don't get anything from it. Or I shouldn't say nothing, you just don't get any money off of it. What you get is discounts off certain things if you build said building there. It's really not worth it because these buildings are expensive. You're better off sinking the cash into the ship. That is where you're going to be making your main money from pillaging, not the town. Only worry about the town if you're hunting achievements, because it's a lot of money for very little gain. As far as the online goes, it's really more the same of the Assassin's Creed Online that we've gotten since Brotherhood. Few new modes, but they're nothing really big. Basically, if you haven't played this type of game online, you're out to kill another player. The only problem is their character avatar is also being controlled by a whole bunch of non-player characters that are just walking around, and you have to wait till someone makes a mistake and kill them without making a mistake and letting yourself off to other players. Because if the player you're after spots you, they can stun you, or if the player who's hunting you sees you, they can catch you and kill you real easy. It's kind of fun, but I only play it for like a few hours every time there's a new Assassin's Creed game I'm playing. It's not exactly extremely addictive, and with all the naval combat in this game, I'm kind of surprised and disappointed that Ubisoft didn't make an online mode where you're firing cannons at each other. That would have been awesome. Unfortunately, all you get is this. I hear there's DLC that does have a naval battle mode, but there's none in the initial package, and that is just an utter disappointment. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag gets a 4.8 out of 5 from me. It's a really great game. It's got a terrific naval battle system. It still has some of the fun stealth action that you expect from an Assassin's Creed game. It's got a pretty good story. It does have a few flaws in the eavesdropping sequence in the town, but that's about it. As far as the online being disappointing, that's not a surprise to me. I always believed Assassin's Creed to be a really superior single-player game, but not one that had great multiplayer. In some ways, I wish Ubisoft would just drop that part and instead focus on giving us a really huge and expansive single-player mode, because the online is not bad, but it's just not as fun as the single-player.
And remember, if you like this review, do click on the subscribe button. And if you don't subscribe, your penalty will be to journey to the buggy swamp of no return without reset. In the buggy swamp land of no return, you'll be swimming underneath that island for what seems like an eternity. You'll pass through walls, and there's no way out. Sure, it might first seem like an easy way to get achievement, but the only way out of this mess is to reset the game and lose all your data. Aarrgh. Or at least all of it since last save. So subscribe or else.